let me be blunt, guys. 99% of investors actually suck at investing. Not because investing is hard, but because they make the same mistakes over and over again. And today, I want to break down some of the most common mistakes that investors make and what's holding them back and how you should be avoiding them. Now, this may seem like a bit of a joke of a video, but I'm absolutely serious and it is made for genuine educational purposes. And if you want to invest in 2026 and don't make the same foolish mistakes, then you need to watch right through the end. And I'm going to go through 5 main key criterias. Now, the first one that I want to talk about, it's probably the most obvious because everyone talks about it, but they still do it, is that they buy emotionally and not with actual logic, right? I think most investors actually fall in love with the idea itself of property investing rather than the numbers and the logic and the reasoning behind it. Property investing in Australia sounds cool. It's almost like the dream in Australia after you own your PPOR or just in general to own houses or a house, right? Everyone wants to own one. It's the way to go, but people fall in love with the idea of it, but don't actually know the numbers, don't know the yield, don't know the rates, don't know the council, the land tax, etc. behind it. They chase what feels safe, they chase what looks nice and what sounds popular instead of analyzing micro and macro level data, right? I often hear that from common parents and mom and dad investors. They go to their family event and they say, "Oh, I bought this really nice high-end looking apartment in Melbourne CBD, right in the docks. It's super close to the CBD, super close to the casino, super close to the river. It looks so nice." But the truth is, those type of assets, they never grow in value or they grow at a very limited rate and they are a huge cash flow drain. While as a smart investor will come to me and said, "Hey, I bought in Bundaberg, or I bought in Rockhampton, or I bought in Rockingham, and I bought a beautiful 1980s brick asset, concrete slab, 700 square meters of land, development potential, so much value." That's where the numbers make sense because property is a game of logic and patience, and emotion is what usually blows up those returns and makes you make poor decisions, right? And this is really important to understand as well. And this is something that I actually see far too common with investors. Apart from the buying aspect of it, is that people actually buy and sell with emotion. I've seen some investors, they purchase an investment asset after doing so much research, but then they go in and they look at their property price every week. Has it gone up in value? Has it gone up $10? Has it gone up $1,000? Should I do my valuation again after 1 month? Guys, relax. If you were serious about investing in property, if you were serious about buying and holding your asset for a long period of time, checking it every single week isn't going to make a difference. Checking it every 6 months, checking every 3 months is reasonable. But there's no point going to SQM research or paying an extra month of data from HTAG or DSR and checking the typical value of the area to see if your property has gone up. It doesn't make a difference. And the reason it doesn't make a difference is because it's a paper difference. It's a material difference on paper. You haven't sold your property. You haven't pulled out equity. So really, what's the point of checking? Just relax. Your property will go up in value. If you did the proper research, you bought with logic and not with emotion, your property will go up in value. So relax, take a chill pill, have a drink, and just relax because it will go up. It just takes time. And then the next thing that I often see, people who emotionally invest and who are emotionally invested in their property, is that they get concerned over the slightest market shifts, right? Or policy changes. If Victoria announces a new policy, they think that the market is going to flip on its head, it's going to go crashing down and everything is going to stop happening. Or if a regional location in Queensland access a major project, they think everything is going to hit the fan. Again, relax. Things take time to happen. Industrial projects, they start, they cancel, they change, they modify. A lot of things happen before something goes through it till the end and into fruition. If you followed the process of investing, you buy an economically diversified location, you buy in locations which have a decent amount of population, you buy in a location where there is low supply and high demand, the general market shifts or the policy changes, they shouldn't affect an area to an extent where your market is going to crash itself. Even if a new development is announced in the area, relax, think about it logically. When is this property going to come? How much land is being acquired for this development? How many new properties are coming? When is it going to come? At what cost will it come? And have you bought closer to replacement value so that you have a higher chance of capital growth even if new houses were to come to that area? That is how you invest with the logic and not with emotion. And that's also how you should be investing. Now, the next one I want to go is people who only focus on growth and not cash flow. A huge number of investors buy negatively geared properties, hoping growth will save them. Now, I must admit, in today's time of investing in 2026, 2025, most properties are actually negatively geared off the bat. especially when you're buying at 4 to 4.5% yields. Anything above 600K on a 20% deposit is going to be negatively geared to a certain extent, right? Now, you can buy very, very smart under market higher yields around 5.5%, and you might be able to squeeze a positively or neutrally geared property at higher deposits. However, oftentimes it's negatively geared. But what I want investors to stop doing is stop buying properties on 2 to 3% yields, because when you're trying to build a large property portfolio over decades, after 1 to 2 properties on these low yields and high budgets, you're going to be capped out of your serviceability, and it's going to be a huge cash flow drain. So I often find there's not much point buying 800K properties at a 2.5% yield. I'll much rather take a 600K property on 4.5% yield, even if it's in a more regional area. It's still going to have good dynamics and good economic diversity, but I would rather that than a suburb in Melbourne CBD that's only offering me 2 to 3% yields. That's my opinion, and I think it usually works out better as well. Now, it's important to have cash flow because things like rates will rise, land tax will increase, insurance costs will increase, maintenance, when your property gets older, you'll have more maintenance issues. And if you have weak cash flow, then the property cannot support itself, and scaling becomes even more difficult. So don't just focus on growth, focus a bit on cash flow as well. It is important as an investor. The better cash flow you have, the quicker it becomes positively geared, and the quicker it is to scale a property portfolio. Now, that doesn't mean go buy high-rise units with no growth. You need a balance of both cash flow and capital growth. Now, the next point I want to make is following the crowd instead of educating yourself. Now, before I pitch my property course, before I pitch my community, before I pitch any of my other products, I don't care what service, product, property guru, buyer's agent you use. Education is so important. All right. I might be wrong in quoting this, but I'm pretty sure it's Abraham Lincoln who said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." And that is so important because when you invest in property, if you don't sharpen your axe, if you don't become smarter about education, if you don't actually take the time to invest to learn yourself about property, it's going to be much harder to find a good quality asset that you can buy, right? You need to educate yourself, right? A lot of the times you find that when everyone is talking about the suburb or the same suburb to invest in, it's probably a little late to jump in there. Most investors only move once buyer's agents or the media or social media platforms start hyping up a location where a lot of the value is already gone. And if you're educated, you'd be able to pick some of these locations before they even start growing or start to growing in an exponential amount. And the reason I say education is so important is I like to use this analogy oftentimes when people and my friends talk. When you have a problem with your car and you take that car to a mechanic, you have no idea about cars. You don't know anything about the engine. You don't know about brakes. You don't know about the differential. You don't know about the axle. You don't know about the studs of your wheels. Anything could be wrong on your car because of you heard a small noise. Now, if you're a little bit educated about your car, you had a bit more knowledge about vehicles in general, then you'll understand better about what the mechanic is talking about. Otherwise, the mechanic could fix anything and then he can give the car back to you. And then a week later, you might have a different problem. And then you have to take it back again and again and again because you aren't educated about your car. And in the same way, that is how property works, right? If you are not educated about a topic in general, then you must rely on someone to make that decision for you and fix that problem for you. In the same way, if you are not educated about property, you don't take the time to learn, then you have to rely on a property guru or you have to rely on a BA. And then at that point, it's no longer the BA's fault if they sell you a crap property. It's your fault for not educating yourself about that. Now, it would be amazing to live in a world where we can trust everyone, but BAs these days are the Wild West and it's hard to trust what they offer to purchase. So even if it takes a little bit, take some time to educate yourself and learn about property so that you know what you're buying or what someone is going to buy for you. And that gives me a perfect segue into telling you about my property course, guys, right? This will teach you everything about property, about investing, taking you for the very basic concepts of property investing, going through all the way through property acquisition, suburb evaluation, negotiation, tactics, tax strategies, and more. And what I would even tell my younger self. There is a full education and curriculum breaking down each video. They're in bite-sized chunks, but it's over 60 plus videos and hours of content that you can do in your spare time and learn about property investing. Whether you want to do it yourself or you want to educate yourself before you go to a buyer's agent to buy a property, this course will help you. We have over 200 members helping each other out in the community, which you'll get access to by purchasing this course for 30 days. And it's only $349. It is a fraction of the cost of what other BAs charge. So it has amazing value for you guys, right? Now, you can go have a check it out, go have a read of it. worth your money. But let's get back into the video. Now, the next point I want to talk about is often I find that investors, especially newer investors, they overestimate their risk tolerance. And now this is a really hard thing to understand because you have to understand yourself as a person and what you're willing to sacrifice. I think everyone thinks they can handle risk until the market turns or rates start jumping. And often I find is that some investors, they don't have any emergency cash and they don't estimate their serviceability properly. Banks will actually let you borrow money because they want to keep you in that mortgage trap. But it's up to you to make the smart decisions about what you can handle. Let me ask you right now, if interest rates were to jump by 3%, can you afford the properties that you hold at the moment? And if the answer is no, then you may need to consider increasing your serviceability buffers, increasing the amount of emergency cash you have. Do you have $10,000 aside for a roof replacement? Do you have $20K? If you have 3 properties, do you have at least $20,000 for emergency repair? Because I'll tell you right now, one roof repair, one leaky bathroom could significantly blow out that budget and take out all your savings. And it's really important I stress this point is because I think a lot of people think properties are all sunshine and rainbows, but things go wrong, right? Rates increase, vacancies happen, there's $2,000 gone, unexpected repairs happen, there's another $10,000 gone. And when pressures hit, they panic sell or they stop buying entirely and they say property investing doesn't work. It works, but shit goes wrong and you need to be prepared for shit because shit will go wrong. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when. So stress test your portfolio, guys. Good investors design their portfolios to let them sleep at night, even in bad conditions. And I see a lot of investors at the moment aggressively purchasing their properties, especially in the early stages, which is okay, which is kind of what you're meant to do. But you still need to be able to hold your properties if things go wrong. Important to factor things like how many kids do you have? Do you have any dependents? Do you have elderly parents to take care of? How stable is your job? People work in unstable jobs, guys. Not everyone has a corporate 9-to-5 job. Some people work in journalism. Some people work in the mines. Some people just have cleaning jobs, or some people have a sole trader business where their business income is unstable, right? Do you have any illnesses? Even things simple as that should be factored in to your risk tolerances. You don't want to be in a position where you have to sell your property. You want to be in a position where you can sell your property if you want to. That's what a smart investor thinks about. Now, the last point I want to make is that investors never actually build a strategy. And this is a problem. A lot of people think about, okay, let me just buy this property and we'll just see what happens. That is not a strategy. That is not smart investing, right? Most people are just buying random properties and hoping it works out. No clear goal, no clear end goal, no target portfolio size, no exit plan, no timeline, right? Now, you don't have to have everything worked out to the nuance aspect of it, but it's important to have a strategy. And what I mean by that is, okay, if I buy X property, what does this do for me? Why am I buying it? How long do I intend to hold it? Am I really happy to hold this property for the next 20 years in some small regional mining town? Or would I better off by buying in a bigger regional hub like Dubbo, where there's a lot more prospect for growth? I can hold for 20 years and maybe sell or redevelop or subdivide that asset, right? That is what a strategy looks like. If I buy that property, what will happen from there? Will I use the equity to buy further properties, or will I focus on paying down my PPOR and just have one investment property for my kids down the line? It's important to really think about what each investment asset does for you. You know, my friend came to me the other day and he said, I don't like investing in property, but everyone seems to do it, but I don't really want to do it. And then he said, I'm going to buy an apartment. And I told him, well, that's really not a smart decision. Apartments drain money. They lose money usually. And even if they have high yields, there are cash flow drains because of body corporate. And he said, well, I'd rather just have it because I want to have a place to live in Sydney. And when he said that to me, I said, I understand. I can't argue with that, because to him, he didn't see property as a means of investment. He saw it as a place to live. And when someone says that, he has a strategy in mind. He wants to raise a family in that apartment. I said, okay, I'm not going to question your decision. That's up to you. But he is still aware of the risk about buying an apartment, especially when it has higher body corporate. And that's the way you should be thinking about your portfolio. You should be thinking about multiple entryways, multiple exit paths. For example, if A happens, then we'll execute this. But if B happens, then we'll go with this strategy. Like I said, you don't have to work everything out to the nuanced degree. Not everything has to go to plan. But if you plan to fail potential outcomes and entries, then you plan to fail. And that plan should include your rough timeline of how long you want to hold a property, your exit plan in the future, whether you want to subdivide or develop. And it should also factor in your cash flow constraints, whether your income will increase along that pathway. And things like that should be thought of. Now, if you need any more help like this, you need mentorship, you need guidance, you need to be able to factor in different strategies, you need to think about picking the right assets, then jump into the private community, guys. It's $35 a month. It's an absolute no-brainer. You get so much value jam-packed in. And if you want to do the course, then you get 31 days free into the community. So you already save close to $40 that way, right? Be smart, jump in the community, get the help you need, and invest in 2026 the right way. Till next time, thank you very much, guys.